of the Open Gov Hub community. Really our goal today is, to help people learn a little bit more about the fellowship experience, and also for each of us to learn more about your particular journeys coming from three very different parts of the world and working on amazing projects with three different organizations. That's we're here today. I'm going to answer for this first introduction, and then we'll go into the discussion for this morning. So I'll, let's see, maybe Zoya, you can go first. If you can tell everyone, your name and the country that you come from. Tell us a little bit about the fellowship experience. So who's your host organization and what work are you doing with them? And then how far along are you in your fellowship as well?
Sure, thank you, Nada. It's my pleasure to be here today, and good morning, everyone. My name is Zoya Belmesova. I come from Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia. In my 8th month of the fellowship at the moment, and I'm serving as a Monitoring, Evaluation, and Learning Fellow at the Transparency and Accountability Initiative, or TAI. TI is a donor collaborative working to expand the impact and scale of transparency, civic participation, and accountability interventions.
Great. Thank you, Zoya. Radhika, why don't you go next? So same thing, your country, original country, what organization you're working with, what they do, and then the role that you're playing with them.
Thanks, Nada. And I am actually Zoya's classmate, I would say. I'm Radhika Ralhan. I am from India. And yes, it's been 8 months and it's unbelievable. And I work for Collaborating for Resilience, housed in the very, I would say, the innovative Open Gov Hub. And Collaborating for Resilience is an international not-for-profit organization working on building resilience amongst local communities across South Asia, Asia, Africa, Latin America through natural resource systems and sustainability, such as the land rights and strengthening local governance and the climate resilience and so on. So yes, it's also 8 months, and yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, and welcome, Radhika. And finally, Ali. So just for everyone's full disclosure, I am Ali's supervisor, so I do know a little bit more about him. But go ahead and introduce yourself, Ali.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Ali Saga from Palestine, Gaza Strip. I'm working with Open Gov Hub for like 4 months now. Open Gov Hub is a dynamic place, brings together resources, people's ideas to open up the governments and empower citizens. I'm working as a global partnership fellow to support the Open Gov Hub programs, especially the program of Global Affiliate Hub program, which is connecting a group of hubs from all over the world to empower them and make sure they are achieving their goals and ensuring their sustainability.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
You can add anything, Nada, now, okay.
Yeah, no, that's very good. And of course, the common thread which all of you share is being part of this Atlas Core fellowship program. So I know some of us are very familiar with Atlas Core and others might be new to it. But it is, in my experience, it's a really fantastic program that benefits fellows coming from around the world and benefits the host organizations that they work for. So we started to host our first Atlas Core Fellow 3 years ago, and have had an amazing experience. So we've continued to do it ever since. Let's see here. So the next question I want to ask, and we'll keep this very informal. So for anyone in the room this morning, please feel free to just unmute your microphone if you'd like to ask a question at any time. Either about the fellowship or about each of their particular experiences. But the next question I want to ask is related to the cross-cultural experience, which you're all having, of course, coming from different countries and now working with, American organizations. The first question is, what is one thing that you really wish Americans or other people, knew or understood about your home country or your culture? So I don't know who wants to take that first question. Yeah.
I can go.
Sure, go ahead.
So one thing that I often hear when I say that I come from Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia, is, oh, you don't look Asian. I think it's very interesting. But indeed, I'm not Asian. I am ethnic Russian. And given the Soviet past of our part of the world, we have diverse groups of people living throughout the Central Asian region and in general in the 15 former Soviet Union republics. And we have many differences, of course, but we also have many similarities. A lot of us still speak Russian. We celebrate similar holidays. We have similar jokes. We share similar cuisines. So I can totally understand people from Ukraine, Armenia, or Kazakhstan. So yeah, it's a sort of a melting pot too in our part of the world. I know this is the phrase that is used a lot in the United States, but in a rather different perspective. So that's one thing I noticed when I introduced myself, and this is one thing I wish more Americans knew about my culture and our part of the world.
Yeah, thank you. Good, very good, Zoya. Let's see, we can mix it up a little bit. So Ali, how about you go next?
I forgot to add that I'm still in Palestine. I didn't reach to the US, and I'm working virtually now. But if I can say something that I would like not just the Americans or maybe all the whole world understand about us, that's the Palestinians, not spending all the time of protesting and going to the street to protest and throw stones and something like that. They have other lives. They have many aspects of arts and cultures and maybe music, traditions. The world should take a look on it, because when we go we not in the streets, we are making our culture and traditions, and we just go to the streets to protest, asking for our rights only, not because that's our life or we love to do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's important. Yeah. Very good. And Radhika, please go ahead.
Oh, actually, since I come from India, and yes, we are like everywhere, because we are huge. But this was like one question. I don't know if Zoya remembers during our immersion. So when we all come in the month of January before we join our respective host organizations, I was asked that, hey, and I lighten up the mood. Those weddings that we see on Bollywood, is it real? I mean, do you guys really do this lavish weddings, and is it really fair? And I have to, very sheepishly tell them that yes, it is. It's true. It's not vice versa. It is a reflection of our life. And now, thank God that arranged marriage series have come up on Netflix, and it has brought more questions. So yes, that was something which we have to tell them. Yes, it's true. It is a reflection. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'm sure having a Netflix show that looks at any aspect of your culture will automatically mean that you get so many more questions. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice. Thank you. So now the next question, it's reversing the idea. So now I'd love to hear from each of you. What was the biggest surprise which you had coming into like an American or international organization? And it can be a surprise about, the organization culture or anything like this. But what has really surprised you so far, which was different from your own expectations in the beginning?
Yeah, I really liked, I'm sorry, I'm pitching it first because I got very excited when I entered the Gov Hub space, first thing first, because my supervisor was there, and and this whole culture that there are, of course, we have open workspaces here, but the very aspect of diverse nationalities, diverse range of organizations, and it's a very innovative space. So the space really attracted me a lot, because for the first time you have a workspace which is like it's free, it's true in that sense. And also the very nature of people who are working with this diversity, with this expertise, you're overwhelmed. You're like, hey, is this 8 months, it's too less for us to even partner? What are we going to do? So that's something which really attracted, and I was overwhelmed also. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. Cool. All right. I won't keep calling on you. Yeah, feel free to jump.
And I go next. Also, I'm not in the US, but the big surprise for me working with American organization, that's the time for taking action. They didn't spend a lot of time to take actions, which is not the similar here, because maybe for the Middle East or all Arab, they took a lot of time to take action or to take a decision. They create a community, and the community make researches and etc. And they spend a lot of time unnecessarily to spend this time to take small actions. When I start working with the American organization, they like this. They take the action like this to keep moving forward and achieving the goals. Also, another thing which is related to the technology, the amount of softwares and platforms that we use working with this organization is amazing. We have a lot of licensed software. For me, it's the first time to hear about them, and which is very good and very useful for the work.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Ali. And it's interesting to hear you say that too, because even in my experience, at Open Gov Hub and Global Integrity, we do have people from many different cultural backgrounds who've been, grown up in different countries. And I've even noticed a difference between me personally and some of my colleagues about how quickly we want to act sometimes, and also how much people want to plan. Definitely working through the pandemic has shown me, this diversity of and spectrum of how people approach planning and thinking and taking action. So that's really interesting. Yeah, thank you. Zoya, go ahead.
Well, it's not my first time in the US, but definitely first time working with an American host organization. And similarly to Radhika and Ali, it was, well, Ali is not here in the US, but similarly to Radhika, then I'd say that my biggest surprise was to see so many organizations working together in a co-working community, not even shared space, but really a community, and a community that focuses on a specific theme or cause at that. And in the case of the Open Gov Hub, it's promoting transparency, accountability, and civic engagement around the world. I'd never worked in a space like that before. I had worked with people coming from different backgrounds and different ethnicities and nationalities, different countries, but this shared space creates a very special environment where you can actually experience so much more. Yeah, so this is what surprised me coming here to the US and serving at a host organization here.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So let's see. Okay, so next question. We've talked a little bit now about the cultural exchange aspect of the fellowship. So now let's start talking more about the work that you're actually doing. I'd love to hear from each of you so far, what has been your number one kind of favorite aspect of the fellowship? And also, what would you say is the number one thing that you've learned about the work that you're doing? So maybe Zoya, if you can start off, we'll keep taking turns.
Okay, so I'd say what I loved about my fellowship is working at the Open Gov Hub. going back to that environment and special feeling. And being physically present there, you meet all kinds of people, you discuss all kinds of ideas, or attend all kinds of events. I miss those events, but it's great to see that they still are going on in the online format. And of course, getting to drink all kinds of coffees and sample all kinds of nut mixes. I miss those as well. There is also this networking and happy hour culture in Washington, D.C. that we don't have back home. And well, I got to experience a little bit of it before Corona. So hopefully I will continue experiencing it next year. I'm staying in DC and working with TI until July of 2021. So I think it's just a fun and of course sometimes daunting way to introduce yourself to the professional world here and learn more about this world yourself. So this is one thing that stood out to me and that I hope to be able to continue doing in my fellowship.
Nice, cool. Yeah, others, what has been your favorite aspect of the fellowship so far? Yeah.
Is that me? To me you are asking, or Ali?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep, Radhika, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I just lost
it. It's okay, yeah.
I think, yes, even I'll, resonate with what Zoya is saying. When we are given a training, and I just wanted to make that clear, when we actually arrive in the fellowship in the month of January, we are into an immersion. And during that time, our CEO actually really taught in a way that, this is a time for us to really open up and get into the networking, get into partnerships and initiate. I think for me, primarily, and it's for all the other fellows and even the upcoming ones, I would say that, you should also explore beyond the unilateral approach of the host and your relationship, because I think this platform gave me immense opportunity to, even curate, like, for example, the SDG Impact Nexus that we did with Open Gov Hub, like, what you can create out of the fellowship, what is the collaborations that you can do, how can you create the network of the networks, because we are already going to be, or all in this process is like, we are a change makers or social leaders, and we have to prove that by bringing people together. And that's what the world is also now all about, with the current crisis, how resilience and issues like collaborations can come. My own work with CORE is also about reaching 10 million rural Indian population, because through the Commons Initiative, and the Commons Initiative is all about bringing together multi-actors working on strengthening local governance processes across 10 states in India, and also creating multi-actor platforms whereby diverse group of actors, business, civil society, academia can come together, make informed decisions, work out on their solutions and own it up. And the current crisis in Indian context is that, 1 crore, it's more than 10 million, I think, migrant laborers have returned back to the villages without any jobs. So this is the time for collaborations, partnerships, and the beauty of this fellowship is the reverse core modality, where you learn these skills, enhance the experience, come back to your country, and then apply it. So it's an applied professional leadership program. So I thought to reinstate that fact.
Yeah. Thank you. And just like you said, probably living through the pandemic is the best example that, like, all of our problems really are global and they're shared problems. So we need shared collaborative solutions to address them. Yeah, thank you. And Ali, go ahead. And again, pretend I'm not your supervisor for right now. You can speak honestly.
Don't worry. I think I have more than one thing that I liked about the fellowship, starting with the model of the fellowship itself, like bringing leaders from all over the world to give them the chance to work 1 year in the United States to enhance their experience and learn new things, and they go back to their home countries to share this information and this experience. It's a very great model. Also, the huge amount of resources available for the fellow. Coming from the Atlas Core itself and coming from the hosting organization, like a lot of articles, videos, webinars, communities, a lot of things to learn and to study or to have an idea about it, which is bring you to a new level of knowledge and experience, which is very, very, very great and helpful for anyone want to be like a social change maker. Also, I would like to, for my case, which is the flexibility that I see from the host organization and from the Atlas Core, where we cannot go to the United States now, but we are working virtually, which is need a lot of flexibility from the hosting organization and the Atlas Core fellowship. So that's the main things that I like about the fellowship, but I think I have a little bit more.
Good, yeah, thank you so much. So I'll go ahead and ask a few more questions, and then we'll open it up for a broader discussion. So let's see so far. Yeah, let's go back to this idea again, focusing a little bit more on the projects that each of you are performing. You know, there's a big diversity of work that you're doing, collaborations around, you know, resilient local government communities, working with other innovation hubs around the world, which is what Ali's doing, and then working through this donor collaborative, which is, you know, provides key resources to so many organizations working on transparency and accountability. So we have a really interesting diversity of aspects of type of work that's happening within our field. So I'd love to hear from each of you now about in the work itself, what has been really surprising or interesting for you to learn about that you would like to apply after you finish your fellowship to continue supporting these types of efforts around transparency, accountability, and civic engagement.
I can start. Donor collaboration, where several funder members come together for collective learning and collaborative action, wasn't a completely new idea for me coming to the States. In Kyrgyzstan, the international donor community runs collaboration meetings around different areas of interests, and I've attended a few. What I learned here is a different way of how this collaboration can work. In the form of a collaborative here with specific members, steering committee, the secretariat, team, strategy, and systematic learning activities. Here at TI, I feel like learning is at the core of everything that we do. Everybody is constantly learning, both the donor members and the secretariat team. One example of such learning would be a project we started at TI to help our members make sense of we call it waterfall of COVID-19 content around the TPA issues that we're reading as donors, including our members, respond to the pandemic. We designed a limited series learning product called the COVID-19 Monitor. The monitor is a brief newspaper-style like slide deck that presents synthesis and analysis of content around the TPA issues. And with the monitor, we are helping our members, other funders, and practitioners in the field to decipher evidence and trends in the overwhelming volumes of information that is available. And we hope with the monitor, we will enable a sort of structured space of collaborative exploration and collaborative explorations of different threats and opportunities in advancing the transparency, participation, and accountability agenda during the pandemic and beyond. And I've been actively involved in the project, so I'm learning a lot about the TPA issues in COVID-19 era, as well as how to create learning product that could help a wide variety of stakeholders. And so I think this would be one thing that I will be taking back home with me, is how to run, or how to help run a collaborative or a collaboration meetings more effectively, where learning would be at the core.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, and it's helpful to hear that example as well of the COVID-19 monitor to help us picture, the results of some of the work that you're already doing in your fellowship. Great. So yeah, I'd love to hear from the others. And maybe, with an example as well, a project that you're working on, how it's helping you learn something, a skill or a lesson that you carry into the future.
Yeah, I think that's a very good, looking at what, Zoya stated is very important, but I also wanted to add that, the learning was two ways. For example, in my context where I had to lead, it just so happened that one of the projects was on India. And for the first time, when we talk about multi-stakeholder dialogues and we talk about, let's bring collaborations on the ground, but what is the systematic way of doing so? So that's where MAP came into picture, where we developed a tool guide, and it's called Multi-Actor Platform Tool Guide, where, when you have and we don't call them stakeholders, we call them actors, because on the ground, when you have a local forest official, when you have a village leader, when you have a community person, can you bring that systematic approach of listening, of what are the key priorities, challenges, and there's a process to it, from the listening, then you enter into the dialogue phase, and then you bring solutions. That was something, even in my decade of career, we were like, okay, let's just go on the ground, and as researchers, as sociologists, let's just do the participatory observation, the FGDs, and so on. But this became a very systemized tool, and we prepared the guide where we took case studies from the Indian context that, look, this is already happening, but how this can be as a field practitioner's toolkit, where you can go on the ground and then you can strengthen those processes further, especially in the forest rights issues. But the second thing was the learning came from the political economy analysis, where that's the example I would say that our local context came into picture. So CORE as a global organization were relying on me, on the Indian context, because you're dealing with 8 states or 2 states, 2 resource systems, pasture lands and agriculture. One is the typical patriarchal state of India, which is, I'm dealing with a village leader where, to give you a very small example, we have a constitutional right of, a reservation of women to be village leaders. But they don't become, they become ghost registrations there. Their men come there and, they are taking care of all the decision making. So those nuances were very, very critical. And then, Nada, you would know when you did the virtual facilitation, that interesting course, that with the COVID, we had to do these on-ground consultations, before the COVID. And when COVID happened, then there was a breakthrough in our thinking as to, you can't go on the ground, you can't create a map on the ground because of the restrictions. Now what? Can then technology become an effective tool to then create maps? So that innovation also was a co-learning process. So these were a few examples which I thought where it was a collaborative shared learning and applied experience. Yeah.
Can I go now?
Yes. You're all very polite, waiting for me to say. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
For me, working with Open Gov Hub and the global affiliate hubs, which contain for this year about 13 hubs from all over the world. The main thing that I'm learning about is the business model for each hub and how successfully, you can run a hub, which is very, very important for me and for my society to bring this experience and try to make a similar business model that can overcome the challenges facing the social enterprises here in Palestine, because we facing a lot of challenges according to funding, according to the policies, and according to the capacity of the social enterprises itself. So when I start working with Open Gov Hub and seeing how to run a hub, training manuals and materials, and start to communicate with other hubs from all over the world and know about their problems and challenges and their business models and how they overcome these challenges, that's gave me a lot of information and a lot of thoughts and ideas about how to make the local the local enterprises adopt such business models and implement new ideas to enhance their capacity and overcome the challenges and empower and achieve their goals.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. I definitely hear a common theme with everything each of you have said about learning, about collaboration, and also about listening to the stakeholders and helping them adapt to all the new changes that each of us are facing. Very good. So I see some of the chat activities, so I'd love to start taking questions from the audience here. So welcome. We see Mohammed Bilal. He is a semi-finalist from Pakistan, waiting to become part of the Alice Corps family. So let's see, maybe if any of you have any tips or recommendations for someone who is applying or a semi-finalist and is hoping to be matched with a host organization. Yeah, please feel free to share.
Yeah, I think one tip which even I got through the journey of the fellowship is that make it very, and I'm talking very practically, that it's a professional leadership program. So it has to be, you know, when you're applying or when you're also doing interviews, it's very skilled focused. The whole application form is also very skilled focused, you know, what are the new kind of skills that you can bring to the host organizations and vice versa. So when they are applying, I think that worked for me, that what are your key strengths and skills, and they have to be very, very pragmatic, you know, like Zoya's working on monitoring, evaluation, and, you know, other aspects. So these were typical skills, because then the host will be able to do that matchmaking. It'll be easier for hosts to then, you know, scrutinize the fellows, because it's very competitive. So that's something which I just wanted to re-emphasize as skills.
Yeah, definitely. And I can add that as someone who has been hiring Alice Corps Fellows, I definitely agree with that point. They present the finalists to host organizations based on the key skill sets which you have, you know, monitoring and evaluation, business development, partnerships, and so on. And that's definitely like the key way that we then identify the people that we'd like to interview. So absolutely, I think it's good to be clear about the specific skill sets. Yeah, does anyone want to add any more to that?
I just want to add some small thing for Muhammad. If you are a semi-finalist, congratulations at the first. Now you have to pass the host organization interview, which is you should be very, you have to know yourself at first. And know where you are strong, where is the main skills of you, in which sector or in which category, and focus on these skills to be presented correctly for the host organization. Also, you have to specify and prioritize your goals of working with a host organization to make sure you are selecting or you are matching the right host organization for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, very good. Thank you. And yeah, let's see, Mohammed, hopefully that helps give you some interesting ideas to consider. Would you like to add anything to that? You can unmute yourself if you have any additional question or comment for the panelists. Okay, good. Okay, good. So we'll continue. I see Frank also had a question. Frank, if you would like to unmute yourself and ask the question, go ahead. But if you prefer, I can read it off. So I'll just give you a second if you do want to ask.
I can unmute, excuse me. Yeah, my question is, what did you all expect out when you applied? What were you hoping to get out of the fellowship when you applied? So we go back before and sort of going, I want to do this thing and do this thing with another organization in the States. What am I hoping to get out of it for personally or for your organization or for your country?
Okay, for me, I was working with many local organizations and many international organizations, but working in the Palestinian land. So what I was hoping to achieve by applying for Atlas Core, first to like taking my experience for the next level, which is working internationally directly with the international organization, like working with the international organization in their home office, not in the local land of my hometown. Also, the main thing that I was thinking about was to expand and enhance my networking. I need to connect with new people from different culture with different backgrounds and know more about the people who are working in the, for me, the non-profit sector and the social enterprises. I want to see more experience and want to know about experiments from other organizations working in different areas in the world.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, Zoya, how about you?
I had just started exploring or focusing my career on the monitoring and evaluation field, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to specialize just on that and learn more about that in the context of the American organizations and American working culture, because monitoring and evaluation is a rather new area in Kyrgyzstan and Central Asia in general, but it's growing in its importance. And when I came here, I realized that there is also the learning aspect to the monitoring and evaluation, which I think I am focusing more on now in my fellowship. And it changed my understanding of monitoring, evaluation, and learning altogether, I think, because I thought that it was just this one narrow field. You go, you monitor, and then you conduct the evaluation at the end, but it's much wider. It can be everything and anything. You can include all kinds of aspects and perspectives into it. And so here I thought that I would be doing more of the monitoring and evaluation, more technical things, I'd say. And here it's more about exploring, more about ideas, more about learning and basing your learning on evidence that can come from monitoring and evaluation. So it's just the fellowship made me start thinking in a different way, applying different lenses to the work that we're doing. And I hope to be able to apply that when I go back to Kyrgyzstan. And as I mentioned earlier, focus more on learning.
Nice. Yeah, and Radhika.
Yeah, I think it's important because this whole applied method, where when you are going, and it's written in the atlas, this thing, I'm going by the written, this thing, that you're going as a fellow to enhance the capacities of your already, somewhat inherent skills in the respective domain. So you don't just change your domain and because that matchmaking doesn't happen with the host organization, but this applied thing that it's a cross-cultural, cross-learning, and you get to apply it back to your home country. And I think second, on a very lighter note, all of us wanted to travel. I mean, I wanted to travel to South America, very frankly. I thought I'll get into DC. COVID ruined our plans. That's a different story altogether. we all wanted to travel also. So it was a fantastic experience. And we still managed to travel. Hats off to us. I think we are one of that class. Class 38 is like one of the most resilient class. It's mine and Zoya's class. That, during the tough times, we ensured that we touch some hotspots there. So yes, we are also encouraged to explore, the US and other countries. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't remember what class number. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry. So yeah, you're both class 38. You were just saying, Radhika. Ali, remind us which class are you part of? What's the number?
39.
And very interesting to see how the fellowship can be adapted during COVID, because we're hopeful that Ali will be able to come to the US maybe for the second half of the fellowship, and yeah, so it's a lot of adaptation for all of us, of course. Very good. So yeah, we'd love to hear if there are others with questions or comments from the panelists. And let me see here. Yeah, it could be about their personal experiences, about the differences in organization culture that they've been experiencing compared to their home countries. Yeah, anything you like. If there are other questions, please feel free to just unmute yourself, or you can also put it in the chat box. Yeah. Cool. So if yeah, again, if people do have questions, please feel free to chime in. We have about 10 minutes left. But before we start to wrap up, I did actually want to reverse the Q&A a little bit, because I thought it would be very interesting for us to hear from the panelists. If you have questions for Radhika, questions for on the call right now.
Sorry, Nada, can you repeat what you just said?
Yes.
You broke there a little bit, so I'm not quite sure what you said there.
Yeah.
I was thinking that's only me.
Okay, sorry.
I think she just, even I couldn't hear it. Yeah.
Yes.
Here, I'll just, can you hear me now? It's okay? Okay. So I was just saying, I thought it would be interesting to reverse the Q&A and see if each of you have any questions for us in the audience, which might help you to take advantage of the rest of your fellowship. Yeah, any question about culture, it could be about professional development, but any questions for the audience?
I'll ask one question. So this would be, I guess, to you, Nada, and anyone else who is hosting fellows here, or who are thinking about hosting fellows. What did you expect when you decided to get a fellow and to try to work with someone from another part of the world? And did it all work out perfectly right from the beginning, or did you face any challenges? And if you did, what kind of challenges these were, and how did you and the fellow go about solving these challenges?
Yeah, of course. It's a great question. And again, just tell me if my connection is unclear, but I'd love to answer. And then I also know a few of your colleagues from TAI are here. They've also hosted fellows. So maybe Alison or Richard, if you want to add after this, please feel free. So definitely, I think as a host organization, there's always been kind of two big benefits which we see from hosting fellows. The first one, of course, is to get very talented people with key skills, which we need, and to be able to do so at an affordable rate and to do it very conveniently, basically. So I think the first part is very practical, just like Radhika was saying. You know, we've always been a small team, and so each Atlas Core Fellow has helped to fill a gap which was missing in our team around events, around financial planning, and around business development and other aspects. That was the first part. But the second big benefit, of course, has been to get more global perspective as an organization, which is so important if we want to call ourselves like an international organization, right? I think it's a really powerful way to put our values into action and to really show that, like, we don't just care about what's happening around the world, but we are making serious efforts to make sure that our organization is a reflection of the diverse people and culture and issues that we're working on. Yeah, so I think that's very important, and it's just so convenient to have the Atlas Core team who can manage the visa and the logistics and all of that when we just are too small to be able to do that alone. And then, of course, there's always been, you know, I think challenges mainly in the beginning around communication styles. I think that's probably something that is very different, of course, from every culture. So like written communication and verbal communication in meetings and frequency of communication. You know, we have Ali from Palestine, we had a fellow from Russia. Like, for example, they have very different communication styles, and I think that's probably just a result of different cultures. So I always found it very helpful in the beginning, just to try to be very specific as possible about my expectations as to how often the fellows are meeting. So those are a couple, yeah, reflection as a host organization. But yeah, I wanted to see actually, yeah, Alison or Richard or anyone else on the call who has also fellows. Do you want to add anything to that?
Sure, this is Alison. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm on my phone. So I'll do a quick video. I think all the things that Ned had said for sure, TAI is, I mean, we're 3 staff people. And so our team footprint is expanded significantly with Zoya. So full disclosure, I work with Zoya, and Busomi, I think, who's also on the call. So we're now like 5 people, which is still a small team, but much mightier with 4 people. I think some of the other things that I've learned and continue to learn, which is maybe more of a statement on my own learning curve, but just continuously having to explain the what and the why of our work to people who are, you know, coming from very different perspectives and bringing, you know, rich experience to the table. But a funder collaborative to me also, when I took this job, wasn't very familiar. So kind of constantly refining the what and the why of our work, and being able to communicate that, which is my second thing, in a jargon-free way. So I think we're still working on that, but I think just trying to make it very clear about what it is that we're doing and who we're doing it for. I think that's another sort of perspective that our fellows certainly have helped me to think more about, especially with Busomi and her predecessors who've worked with us on communications, is who is our audience. And that can be very funny to think, oh, well, is it the funders that are our audience? That's like, we're a funder collaborative, that should be the case, but really trying to bring a human element to our work. So anyway, those are some of the questions that our fellows have continuously brought and has helped me to learn more about my own work.
Hi, it's Richard. I don't have much to add. I think Alison said everything I wanted to say, actually. I don't know, part of me that really enjoys the fellowship is just learning about other people's cultures, right, in a way that I wouldn't think possible otherwise, right? So I can't go to Kyrgyzstan every week, but I can talk to Zoya and talk about everything about it. And she uses these backgrounds like she has for our team meetings, and sometimes they're about Kyrgyzstan. It's just like, okay, what's that? That looks cool. So it's I don't know, I guess a fulfilling experience to me personally to learn more about other people's cultures and way of life. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you both. Yeah, go ahead, Ali. And we have just about 5 more minutes, so if there's any other questions, just put them in the chat. But go ahead, Ali.
Okay, I just want to reverse one question for the audience from the question we received, which is what is the biggest surprise for you as a host, organization director, or owner, or working with American organization when you worked with people from out of America? And what do you think is the biggest difference between working for the between the American organization and the other organization from the all over the world? Maybe you, Nada, maybe Frank, maybe anybody can answer the question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I want to think about it for a second. So if anyone wants to start, go ahead, please.
This is Alison. I can offer one one example, and it comes back to, I think, communication, but also just sort of work culture. I think, I mean, it's, I don't want to suggest that the TAI staff didn't talk to each other and know each other before, but I think through all of our fellows, in particular, our current fellows, and maybe because of the pandemic as well, we've really worked much harder, I think, or much more intentionally to introduce some sort of almost like a social element or a continuous kind of getting to know each other. It can be very easy to think, okay, let's just get the next things done. And I think that's a very stereotypical US way of working. Just get it done, next deliverable, deadlines, this kind of thing. And so I think it was an interesting mirror to be put up to us to think, oh my God, we don't, it's like pause. And I mean, that's also a key learning quality, is to pause and reflect, or just talk to the people around you, open your ears and eyes to things that you wouldn't otherwise be seeing if your head is down at your computer all the time. So anyway, we've started sort of on our daily team huddles now, an icebreaker question, which is sometimes, you know, a bit lighthearted, but sometimes pretty existential. Depends on who's contributing the question. But so this is one of the things I think that's been, you know, just sort of helpful to have a mirror, I guess, put to ourselves and think, oh gosh, no, it's not all about work. You've got to like take a moment and remember to continuously get to know the people around you.
Yeah. I think also virtual has changed a lot of things. I mean, I wanted to add that question from what Ali has stated, that, you know, NADA and all the other host organizations, that yes, it is, you know, important to see how we are being perceived at your end. But now with the virtual, I mean, I think there'll be more planning set forth by the plethora of organizations, like how Atlas does is like how, if when we conclude our fellowships, how they're going to engage us as their alma, because we still remain an Atlas fellow. So I think it'll be also interesting for me to see how the Gov Hub would like to even, you know, engage us further given this virtual modality. That's something is like, maybe that's just came up with what Alison is saying, that, you know, how we are changing or being adaptive to the upcoming technology. And that's an advantage. I think it's a huge advantage for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just like Alison said too, I think I had a very similar experience. Before I spent some time working with organizations in the Middle East, including Egypt, where my parents come from. And yeah, like the amount of time people spend talking about personal things in the office there compared to here is so different, right? And it was a bit of a shock for me at first, but just like you said, Alison, I think I would like us to do more of that and have a healthy balance between allowing people to share like their personal life in the workplace in a way that actually strengthens your connections and helps you work better together as a team. So yeah, very good. So we're almost done. I'm gonna ask Ali, Zoya, Radhika, do you want to share any final thoughts just before we wrap things up?
I think we shared a lot of information, but the last thing that I would like to say, we are doing, with Atlas Core and the hosting organization, we are doing a great job, and it's very, very good example for people who are trying to enhance their experience and enhance their societies. And it's a great opportunity for anybody who want to to support, to build his capacity at the first step, and then build his community capacity, or improve the life of his people in his hometown, home country.
Absolutely. Yeah. And do you want to share something? Go ahead.
I mean, I completely, I think it's a wonderful, it's a life-changing experience. It's not, you know, we are just, I think we're just looking at our working sphere, but we are also sharing our lives with the fellows across different countries. So it's also like, for me, I mean, I'll be even personal. It was the first time in my life I was in a shared housing with like an international, you know, international fellows, and that's life-changing. It's beautiful. And I still remember, and I know Zoya hates me and all other people hate me in my class because I wrote that you will not give me a house where Indians reside. So they were like, look at you, you're, you know, being so hard on your own community. But I did, because I thought that, you know, it's an international experience, you know, and I want to explore it to the maximum. So yes, we are making that difference, but it's also making a huge difference in our lives. And it's life-changing. It's beautiful, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just wanted to say ditto to all of that.
Yeah, those are great points. Thank you so much, everyone. And we like to try to end with 3 quick takeaways. So I'll try to share just 3 things that I learned today. Number 1, there's some common traits to the work all of you are doing that we should all keep in mind, which is to have learning and collaboration at the center of our work, and also listening to stakeholders. Number 2, the fellowship is such a good way for very practical skill sharing between the fellow and the host organization. And number 3, it's also an amazing opportunity to be part of a network of networks, just like Radhika said, to be creating initiatives in that network and to also be supporting others and benefiting from the others in the network. Which is it's such a good example of the mission of Open Gov Hub, which is one reason why I love the program. It's all about how can you get and give support to the others in the network. So thank you so much. Round of applause virtually for Ali from India and Afghanistan. Support of your fellowship and such beyond that. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
Zoya. Bye, Ali. Bye,
Bye.
Nara.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.